Hi everyone, my name's Bill and welcome to my channel. Before we get started, please consider subscribing to my channel and possibly becoming a patron. Now this is a product review for the RadioMaster T8 Lite radio. And here it is. Let me just give you a bit of a glimpse of it. Now you've already seen on my channel that I've done the review of the RadioMaster T8 Pro, which comes with a screen. Now this one doesn't. It's a budget entry radio, really I think aimed for bind and flies. Now it can bind to D8 protocol and also to D16, but D16 only the version 1. Later on in the video I'm going to show you how we put the radio into bind mode, but let's just have another closer look at it. We have at the bottom of the radio we've got two position switches, and at the top two 3-position switches. Now these are set up to the aux channels. Obviously you would have aux 1, 2 and then 3 and 4. Then you've got the gimbals feel okay. They are pentometer gimbals, they're not hall sensor. And at the front we've got the LEDs that show us, let me just turn it on. There we go. The LEDs that show us how charged the radio is. You can see those. And also you may be wondering how it will tell us if there's a throttle warning or one of your switches is not right. So if I put the throttle up and one of the switches up and then power it up, it's going to start beeping, and until I put the throttle down and put the switch in the correct position, it will go back to normal. So there is one thing, you cannot adjust this. We can't plug it into OpenTX because it's a proprietary firmware on the radio. So if you can't put sounds on it or anything like that, so it really is a budget radio. Now let's take a look at how you bind your receivers to this radio. It's not difficult at all. With the radio on, we are going to push the bind button, which is at the back of the radio. So we're going to push this button in once. Now, you can, let me put it here, now you can hear those two beeps. That means it's trying to bind in D8 mode. Now I'm going to push again. If I push the button one more time, 3 beeps means it's trying to now bind to D16 version 1. That is important, it's version 1. Now I have tested this. I've flashed one of my RadioMaster receivers to the right version and it bound. There was no problems at all. What I thought I'd show you is the radio connected to Betaflight. So let's go and take a look. So here we go. You can see throttle channel is working. I have already set up the RX range for this so that it was working exactly as it should do. So you can see the throttle working nicely. Roll. We've got pitch and we've got yaw. And then you can see our aux channels. So we've got switch A, switch B, switch C and switch D. And you can see they are all set up. So you could obviously bind this to a quad that you've built yourself, because you'll be able to make these adjustments in Betaflight to have the switch where you particularly want it. So there we go. That's the demonstration within Betaflight. Now let's take another look at the radio. You can see there are some little, let me get this focused. You can see there's some little tabs that come down that help you secure the radio. You can see both my fingers grip that. Also with the, let me turn the radio on. Whoops, that means there's a switch up, and you can see the radio is fully charged. So as we go down, each one of those is, it says in the manual, is 20%. So you know you've lost 20% of your battery. It also, in the manual, now there's a problem with the manual that I have. The one online is totally different to the one that I found in my box for this review radio. But in there, it actually shows that it's got an SD card, but of course it hasn't. It doesn't have one. So I just wanted to point that out. And also in the manual, the calibration, when we're going to calibrate the radio, let me show you how to do this. Make sure everything's down. So to calibrate the radio, you need to hold down the bind button and then power up. Let's see if I can do this in front of the camera. Okay, we're now in bind mode. Let me just, you can hear that. So now what we have to do is move the sticks 3 times on each gimbal, and then make sure you drop the throttle. Then 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And there we go. That's the calibration completed. That's how we do the calibration. And in the manual that I have, the copy that I have, it says center your sticks at the end. And when I did this, I had problems binding the radio to the receiver, because when you bind, you must make sure the throttle is down. And so it appeared to cause a problem. So you just must remember that when you're calibrating, to make sure not to center the stick but to drop it, and then it did it fine. Now the battery inside this is a rechargeable battery, obviously charged up via the USB, is a 1000 milliamp hour 3.7 volt battery. I haven't tested how long it lasts. As I've been working on this all day today, it did drop to about 3 LEDs. And then I charged the battery back up again. The radio also has a lanyard clip there. Let me just show you. You can see it there. But I don't, with a light radio like this, I probably wouldn't use that, to be quite honest. Okay, now to my final thing. This controller can be used for a gaming controller on your computer, so that you can play sims and you can practice your drone flying. Now, when I tried to connect this, it came up with a problem. Now this is a known problem, and I'll leave a link in the description below to show you how to put this right. Basically, when you attach the radio to the computer, instead of having the correct driver, it has an incorrect one called, I think it's Beta USB, and it will not work. So I was quite surprised there, because I thought once I'd fixed that problem within Windows 10, I thought it wouldn't matter with the other radios. I plugged my TX12 in, it worked fine. Plugged this in, it didn't work. So I did that update and it worked fine. Now, one other thing with regard to the sim, I used it with Curry Kitten's simulator 100%. I want to test it in Liftoff, but there's an 800 gigabyte update, which in South Africa our internet isn't that fast, so it's going to take ages. So I haven't tested it, but I will come back and let you know if there was a problem with that. Now, it worked fine with Curry Kittens. I assume it's going to work fine with the Liftoff, but with another simulator I use for aeroplanes, it wouldn't work. I could not get it to work. Now, the name of the program is, it's called Clearview RC, and it's a very old simulator that I've had on my computer for a long time. Now, what was happening, I was only getting half of the stick, so only that part of the stick would work, or that half, or this half, and this half. And it was just strange. I couldn't figure out what was going on with it. So if you use that, you may have problems with it. I will work on it, and if I manage to come across a fix for it, I will then let you know about that. But it was strange that it just wouldn't work with that particular program. But when you go and do the calibration in Curry Kittens, it was absolutely perfect. Now, on to the bit where I say, would I spend my money on this? Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one, because I'm a more experienced RC pilot. So my answer is no, I would not buy this one, because it isn't aimed for me. It's aimed at beginners, people who are going to want to buy bind and flies using D8 or D16 and the version 1 D16. And they would, if they were starting out, they could go and buy this radio and then bind it to their bind and flies. That you're limited on what you can do. I definitely wouldn't suggest you use this for fixed wings, because you can't change, you can't go into the firmware and make any adjustments, you know, with flaps or whatever you want to do. So it definitely, to me, this is a drone radio. So yeah, the answer is I wouldn't buy it for myself, but it is a very reasonably priced radio. I don't give the prices on because they change so quickly, and I'm in South Africa or whatever, but you can go and look it up. It is a very good value for money. But and it does only bind to 2 protocols. You can't use anything else with it. So there we go. That's my thoughts on it. And before I go, I've decided to add the earlier footage that I recorded to show you how to sort out the driver problem with Windows 10 so that you can use your T8 Lite as a controller on your computer. When I plugged my RadioMaster TX12 into my computer, liftoff wouldn't detect it, and I had a look and I found out what the problem is. If I plug my radio in, we wait for the screen to come up, and you'll see this LIB USB Win32 device is incorrect. Now the way we correct this is to click on this Better USB HS, right click and say update. Now I'm going to browse the drivers and then I'm going to say pick from list. Now I'm going to choose this one here, the USB input device. Now you can see over here, I'm only picking up the VJoy device, which is another device that I have for my computer. So we've connected there, clicked there, we go next. And there we go. It's coming up as a Tyrannus, but that doesn't matter. Now the controller is actually there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, please give it a thumbs down. And if you have any comments or questions about this radio, please put them in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. Bye for now.